When Disney acquired the Star Wars property, they announced that in addition to new episodes in the saga, they would also make movies centered on certain events or characters. We have a movie about a young Han Solo coming soon, and there are rumors of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi movies in development. However, this will hardly be the first time we've seen Star Wars films focused on characters other than the Skywalkers. Shortly after the release of Return of the Jedi, and inspired by his daughter's love for the characters, George Lucas produced two made-for-television films starring the Ewoks. They've been kind of forgotten over the years, with only hardcore Star Wars fans being familiar with them. But let's see how they hold up. The first one was Caravan of Courage, which aired on ABC on November 25, 1984. Interesting enough, it also received a theatrical release overseas. The film was directed by John Cordy, an Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker with a lot of experience in directing TV movies, and he also worked on the Lucas-produced animated feature Twice Upon a Time and a number of Sesame Street segments. Lucas sought somebody who could make a more low-key and childlike adventure, and it made sense to hire Cordy. I should mention from the outset that I'm not a fan of the Ewoks. They were kind of annoying in Return of the Jedi, and watching an entire film surrounding them really tested my patience. Joining them is a young girl named Sindel and her older brother Mace, whose actor had to have been cast because of his resemblance to Mark Hamill. Now, I'm not saying these two are related to Luke Skywalker, but then again, this is a universe where Darth Vader just happened to build C-3PO when he was a child, and you already have people theorizing that Rey is Luke's daughter. Anyway, these two are just sort of the generic Muppet child protagonists, and the acting leaves a little something to be desired. The story is merely a basic plot to save their parents, which is unfortunately a tad on the dull side. I never found myself connecting with these two or their Ewok companions. Outside of a couple of detours, there also is not much magic in this film. One can tell this lacked the budget of the Star Wars movies, as most of the otherworldly creatures on Endor consist of just regular woodland creatures and goats. That's right, goats exist in the Star Wars universe, apparently. With that said, even with the tight budget, the special effects shots that do abound are quite well done. Unsurprising, since some of the top ILM talent did work on this, including the likes of Phil Tippett, Dennis Muren, Joe Johnston, and Harley Jessup. There are some good stop-motion effects, and the giant creature that kidnaps Sindel and Mace's parents is also a solid use of a fully costumed actor. What actually makes Caravan of Courage stand out among the Star Wars films is its focus on regular people. We don't really see much of these in the regular films, as we're so focused on the Jedi, rebels, royalty, the Empire, and the First Order. We don't really get the chance to see what working, middle-class citizens in this galaxy are like, and so it's kind of refreshing to see that with the Tawani family. Unfortunately, I found Caravan of Courage as a whole a mixed bag. It did not do much to endear me to the Ewoks, and it was a fairly substandard little adventure. However, the film did well enough in the ratings and even won an Emmy Award for its visual effects. So, a second film was commissioned called The Battle for Endor, with brothers Jim and Ken Wheat directing, whose most notable credits later on was helping to create the Riddick series. With the Tawani family reunited again, you'd think the second Ewok film would be about them going on an adventure with their new pals. Or the parents and brother are killed off in the first 10 minutes, leaving Sindel to fend for herself. Well, this got upsetting quickly. Eventually, Sindel and lead Ewok Wicket come across Wilford Brimley, and a good chunk of the film is spent with them mostly hanging out in his home as she warms his old heart. Riveting. I'm sorry, is this the Battle for Endor or Heidi? Oh, and that's not a joke. George Lucas said he wanted it to be like Heidi, which is why the parents are offed. The villains are pretty weak too. There's Tarek, who is obsessed with gaining power from a piece of a spacecraft. ILM usually does top quality work, but his design and makeup leaves a lot to be desired. The other central villain is a witch, who actually has the ability to shapeshift into a bird, the kind of power I don't think we've seen in the Star Wars universe before, or since. Beat that, Force! However, she's a boring character, and her comeuppance could not be less exciting. The action scenes lack any real flourish or pizzazz, and the dialogue has a certain corniness to it. The battle for Endor is just a dull, plodding fantasy, and the drama never quite registered with me. However, I recognize that more than the other Star Wars films, the Ewok adventures were made primarily with children in mind. George Lucas did, after all, produce them for his daughter. I actually think I chose the wrong age to watch them. I imagine I would have loved these films as a child, and will probably have a higher affection for them now. I just got to the Ewok adventures far too late in my life. But I will say, upon watching the ending of Battle for Endor, I did wonder what adventures Sindel got up to after leaving Endor. According to the expanded novels, she later became a reporter on Coruscant, but that's about all we know. However, Disney officially removed both the Ewok adventures and the expanded universe from the canon, so it's highly unlikely we'll see her referenced again. That has not stopped fans from theorizing her place in the official film canon. The most prevalent has been that she grew up to be Captain Phasma, mainly due to Sindel's resemblance to actress Gwendoline Christie, and the ages do somewhat match depending on when you feel the Ewok adventures take place, which is a source of debate. However, that's merely a theory. As much as I would not mind seeing Rey or Finn running into Sindel as a cute little nod, I'm not holding my breath. In conclusion, despite some positive qualities here and there, neither of these films did much for me as a whole, and they mainly work as curiosity pieces for Star Wars fans. And Ewok fans, I guess. See you next time.